Hello there! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hi. Welcome to the reading stream for Mizuki and Caerula Arbor. Tonight, I think we're gonna find out how to be a better human. Methinks anyways. Ooh, okay. Reading the... Wait. It's not letting me scroll. Okay, there. Recommend reading the events and the ending folders first, then to Thorns and Irene's memory notes. Okay, yeah, can do. Oh, good luck at work, Stray. Super duper good luck. And yes, hello. Time to learn more about Mizuki and how to become a better human. So, for some notes, let me go to the notes real quick. I got this. So first we're gonna start off with ending 1, of course, you know? And with that one, let me go through the notes real quick. We're just gonna vibe to this music. You pass by an old Iberian man and can vaguely hear his entourage addressing him as Saint in hushed voices. He stops you, full of suspicion as he questions you. Where did you come from? What are you doing? You answer his questions calmly and with grace, and his tone gradually softens. You return his questions, and though your eyes are on him, his gaze is fixed on the ocean behind you. Finally, someone has come to put an end to it. It's about time, he says. Your lighting equipment is broken, and the night is fast approaching. The old man hesitates for a moment, then passes you a lantern in his hand. This was originally a collectible left behind by an old friend. Instead of letting it sink into the ocean with me, it ought to remain here on land. A lone Ager stands against the tide. The turbid waves coalesce into high walls and come crashing down on the cliff beneath his feet again and again, nearly swallowing it several times over. However, the man does not retreat even half a step. The waves carry away 2 pieces of equipment at his feet, and you recognize them. One is Verticus Navis, a short-range submersible, and the other is an Ocean Voyager, a device used to mark territory, 2 instruments frequently used by Ager Tide Watchers. And of course we're gonna take the risk to help him recover his equipment. Oh man. Doing the screen sharing for the document's kinda difficult because it's gonna show other stuff too. Unless I crop it. So you guys could've just imagined for now, haha. Now for this part, you are soaked from head to toe, but the man expresses his gratitude. After the war, the Ager who were forced to go ashore were just as ashamed as the islanders back then, but they still selected Tide Watchers in hopes of reconnecting with the ocean. They are the outposts searching for their homeland. The Eyes of Ager, humanity's last line of defense. But just as the tide silenced the lighthouses of Iberia, he is the last remaining Tide Watcher. The man has no intention of leaving, and he proposed taking a piece of his equipment with you in his memory. People must remember the Tide Watchers, and know the calamity that they never witnessed. The man stares at you for a long time, then nods. The devouring dust has already blanketed the entire city, digesting the products of civilization in an orderly manner to turn them into sustenance for the Seaborn's progeny and evolution. You trudge through the dissolving ruins, searching for any supplies that might still be usable. Unintentionally, your attention is drawn to something glowing from beneath a patch of dust. And of course, we take the risk to go and retrieve it. After risking life and limb to remove the dust, you find a severely corroded lantern. Even so, the flame inside it still shines with a warm light. You see an Inquisitor who has lost her lantern. She gasps for breath as she leans against her sword. A mountain of sea terror corpses at her feet. You know, she looks like she could use a lantern, so of course we give it to her, right? This is my maestro's lantern. The Inquisitor receives the lantern from your hands and thanks you. I'm glad we could meet again. Now go. It's not safe here. At that moment, you see her tuck her hand without a sword into her sleeves, trying hard to control the squirming. Leave. I will light the way for you. One last time. And then we'll go to Thorn's notes and Irene's notes. Aw yeah, before ending one. Oh my goodness though, I am so used to all the cuteness. AKA, when we first saw Mizuki inside of Dosali's, how he entered the food eating contest and that's how he got into the competition for that one event. And then there's this, which is like, whoa, way different tone. So now for the dangerous injection. Oops. Wait, I got there before. There. Got it. Memory selection. Part 1. Within minutes of the coastline's collapse, silence floods the ears. The ocean's rumbling and the land's clamor all disappearing, as if the brain activity refuses to process the vibrations entering the oracle. In this moment, the terrible calamity leaves behind only a pure white void. The ground beneath one's feet may be crushed, sunken, or consumed by the spreading nether sea, brown at any time. Even the high ground upon which Thorns is perched offers no guarantee of safety. The Aegir who refused to evacuate watches as the ocean, for a brief moment, returns to serenity. He does not know if it was from the shockwave or some other reason, but a strange heterogeneous fluid begins to flow from his ears, moistening his gloves and scrambling to be first to overflow from the gaps between his fingers. It is blood. Thorns does not mind bleeding. Nothing else matters in comparison to the scene unfolding before his eyes. He had to admit, he'd never found Iberia pleasant. He'd spent much more time around the coast than in the inland cities. He once left both Iberia and Aegir behind, and even now, does not consider either place his homeland. But afterward, he still returned to this place, to the scarred land of Iberia. He once thought he might have the opportunity to rebuild the Golden Age sung about in the stories, a desire he'd held on to, until today. The blood flowing from his ear trickles down to his neck, causing an indescribable itching. He cannot help but to perceive his own blood as some kind of foreign substance, and this act of bleeding as a process to purge it from his body. The foreign substance drawn out by the sea keeps Thorns rooted in place. What exactly is it that exerts its influence on him from the depths of the ocean? This strange magnetism had grown more and more apparent with each passing day, and it became increasingly difficult to convince himself to ignore it. A singer once said to him, "Whether or not you fear it, it will come for you." But whatever it is that the singer said would come for him, was it his so-called homeland, or the sea creatures before him? He must find out. Until this question has been answered, he cannot escape from this place. What a big oof for Thorns, like, ah yes, the Golden Age! Never mind. Part 2. The Aegir never thought of himself as someone who could hallucinate, but as soon as the pure white silence ends, a sharp pain begins to scream out. The shadows of life forms about to teem forth emerge from a distant ocean, and at the far end of his fragmented vision, he sees a figure that should not be there. Though its body has transformed into that of a pure seaborn, an uncanny intuition helps Thorns recognize that he is looking at his former mentor. Not so much by its physical form, but rather by a flash of enlightenment across the membrane of cognition. The moment his eyes make contact with the monster, in that instant, what once seemed like layers upon layers of contradictions in the past, all unravel, answered. The Iberian priest who had imparted him invaluable knowledge had, since the very beginning, been part of the deep. The priest from the deep stands upon the broken shore, bringing with it not terror, but rather peace. The sea terrors circle it, emitting soft whispers of joy. The seaborn shake their slender wrist appendages, swaying in the tide. Okay, that sounds kind of cute. Pure and clean are the among we many, swaying gently in the tide. The evening sun sets behind the priest's back, its gray shadow gently reflected by the ocean surface in scattered polka dots. The priest stands there, looking at him. Ooh! You're going in pretty blind too? What a joyous reunion, my child. From within the ubiquitous whispers comes an emotion, one that we many should not possess. One that belonged to an individual. You yearn for the ocean you have never met, yet also worry about your ancestral lands. Is that the reason you remain here, unwilling to retreat? Within your blood still flows the gift I left for you. It should not have meant anything, but you've already spent too long with we many. You seem to be hesitating, wandering, searching for something. Did you find what you were looking for here? The will of we many will subsume that of the individual, though there will always be exceptions. It may not be the most optimal of paths, but my extensive thoughts have brought me here. As for you, do you have your answer? The priest holds out his hand. The brood begins to blossom, the offspring of the sea extending their tendrils towards him. You must think for yourself and make your own decision. You must make a choice. How I wish you could embark on this path most suited for you, my child. The seaborn's voice brushes across the surface of the sea like ripples stirred by the wind, diffusing outward layer by layer. Thorns can understand this voice. All this time, the person he is facing has always taught him to maintain his independent thought. If all previous approaches to verification have failed, and new hypotheses were established, then... Hey, hello, welcome. Welcome to the lore stream. Will the option in front of him help him find the answer he seeks? At the terminus of his life, will this option in front of him be the answer he sought? The sun sets within Thorn's eyes. We many do not immediately march upon the land, but instead gradually retreat. The sacred mural is scattered and broken. Silver and gold pour onto the ocean's surface. The Aegir raises his sword and points its tip at the priest. And now part 3. For how long has the city held? A few days? A week? Or a month? That's a big difference between a few days and a month. Desperation continues to grow, but the people continue to dwindle. The team that went out for reconnaissance was unable to return. The communication equipment they had used was brought back by a dying inquisitor. Their last report stored within the broken-down machine. At the end of the recording is a brief and peaceful farewell. His companions had drawn their last breath fighting against the seaborn. The soldiers fell into the swarm of sea terrors. The medic exhausted the last bit of his energy, staining a tool for healing with the blood of his enemies. Oh, he went from a healer pharmacist to a pharmacist. Oh, dang. The guards responsible for holding the line boldly erected barriers so the people could retreat, barely holding back the sea terrors and seaboard until the town could stand no longer. They're still running equipment buzzing defiantly until it, too, finally ceased. But Thorn still remains here, striding forward as everything else recedes, cutting through the lines of people evacuating inland like a countercurrent rushing out to the sea. The Aegir stands alone on the coast, a fluorescent regent resting in his hand. When he made this potion, he knew he would have to use it one day. As for where its raw ingredients came from and how they were processed, only Thorns, who had cut through the overgrown body of his transfigured mentor, knows. Is it green or is it blue? Why not both? Blue-green. It is interesting learning more about Thorns. When I think of Thorns, I'm just thinking of that one Aegir band. Who can say for sure what the color of the sea is? Thorns cannot, but he knows one thing well. He will come to embrace it. He is the sole human here. Countless progeny of the seas surround him, but do not attack. They considerately allow him a moment to himself. No matter if right and wrong have been turned inside out, no matter how the truth is interpreted, Thorns has made up his mind. He must come to understand what has always been calling out to him. He needs to know that which can no longer be hidden. He needs to know, when he becomes one with them, will he still be able to wound the sea itself? This is a quandary that has never ceased to plague his thoughts. Every day in which he still does not understand is a day he will spend continuing his search. Thorns has always been searching for this answer. He is confident in himself and believes that even if his consciousness is washed away, he will still remain clear-minded. He has also considered the possibility that even if he loses this gamble, the doctor knows exactly what his weaknesses are. As long as the doctor exists, everything can still be resolved. Are you sure, Thorns? Are you really sure that as long as the doctor exists, everything will be fine? Well, thank you for your vote of confidence, Thorns. Also, hello. There is nothing holding him back anymore. At this moment, all he needs to do is follow through on his own thoughts and decisions. The self-aware Aegir presses down on the far end of the potion and slowly pushes his homeland into his body. Alright. Well, dangerous injection for reals. When the silence invaded Iberian soil once again, someone from the ocean, from Thorns' memories, appeared before him. The Aegir will never stop thinking or searching until he finally verifies his conclusion. Well, Thorns. Yeah. Heck, Aegir in general seems pretty nice for people coming back. Like with our boy Lumen. And now the second one, lantern bearers. As long as there are still people holding the coastline, Iberia will not die so easily. I love how short her description is. For the lantern bearers. Memory selection, part 1. A soldier and an Aegir, two things you'd hardly ever see together back in the old days. Someone steps out from the shadows. Her whole body is clad in black, but the sword in her hands shines with a silver glow. The intruders did not expect anyone else to be in this cave. They had withdrawn from their posts in the cliff. The fourth tsunami had leveled most of their defenses overlooking the tidal zone, and also cut off their communications within the main force. Their whole way here, the endless ocean and its sea terrors had clung to their heels. The only two survivors are a soldier and a watchtower worker. They are both wounded, fatigued, hungry, and full of apprehension about the road both ahead of and behind them. Are you an Inquisitor? Asks the Aegir cautiously. The sharp blade pointed at them easily brings back old memories. You should recognize my sword and lantern. The speaker is now clear of the shadows. She is not holding the flames of castigation, but her lantern rests on the rocks behind her. The soldier hesitates to lower his weapon. How could there be an Inquisitor around here? The defense line has collapsed. They've all either died or retreated inland. My duties are not yet complete. The last watchtower still stands, and the people are still standing their ground upon that cliff. Similarly, the ones who return to the sea will not give up trying to contact us. The person beneath the black cloak looks back towards the shoreline. If you want to make it inland from this cave, you won't get far without light. Aegir, pick up the lantern and follow me. The lantern's faint light spills across the cave's slippery walls, and the shadows of the three figures grow lengthy. You must be familiar with the rumors too. The soldier whispers in a hushed voice. The Seaborn disguise themselves as humans. First they infiltrated the church, then the army. Finally, ordinary towns as well. That's how the last outpost fell. They have no way of knowing if the person in front of them is actually an Inquisitor, but the Aegir knows they have no other choice. Ah, so we're playing kind of like Among Us. Who's the imposter here? Part 2. The Aegir knows the soldier is telling the truth. Before the war began, people from the Inquisition taught them how to recognize sea monsters in human skins. Whether sea terror or seaborn, They could only imitate a human's walking posture, but actually had to rely on pushing their chitinous exoskeletons or tentacles against the ground. They would be relieved if they suddenly fell, or were made to move quickly. But that was the past. Evolution is their specialty after all. Half a month ago, a forward base received a distress signal from a nearby battle site and sent a team to rescue a group of remnants trapped by the army of sea terrors. That night, the forward base fell. Even its fortifications were unable to serve their purpose because it was breached from the inside. Nobody could say for certain whether the sea terrors imitated the soldiers after devouring them, or if the soldiers accepted the metamorphosis themselves out of desperation. People came to realize that the faces most familiar to them could turn into enemies at any moment. Fear and mistrust spread among the people, and the defense lines started collapsing faster and faster. Researchers claim that the biological nature of the seaborn would prevent them from ever understanding what it means to conspire. Most likely, they simply smelled the metamorphosis of their kin among the crowd of people, and were eager to approach them, to communicate with them in a more easily acceptable form, and to welcome them home. But the vast majority of people scoffed at this. For humanity, this was a war. During times of war, people always use the ways they are most familiar with to understand their enemy. What if this is also a trap? She didn't come to save us, but to lead us into the abyss. The soldier speaks through gritted teeth, eyes bloodshot from excessive fatigue. We can't sit back waiting to die. You must not have a home to return to anymore, but I do. I have to get back to Victoria. He raises his weapon once more and rushes at the guide in front of him. The shadows along the shore wall entangle, gradually deforming, elongating, expanding, splitting open, and then bursting forth. Ooh, horror movie style. A blue-green fluid splashes across the rocks, with some bits of tissue sticking to the Ager's face. Mmm, delicious! Part 3. A pitiful man. The one who remains standing wipes down her rapier. He misunderstood where his desire to attack me came from. Until the moment of his death, he still saw himself as a Victorian soldier, waiting for the war to end so that he could go back to his hometown. When did he? During the last battle, or maybe even before that. He probably doesn't remember himself. Maybe he accidentally bit off some of the enemy's flesh in the middle of a desperate melee, thus planting the seeds of metamorphosis. She glances over at the surviving Ager. Everyone on the battlefield wants desperately to survive, which isn't too different from the sea terrors. The eyes beneath her hood burn brightly. Without a doubt, she must be an inquisitor. The Ager instinctively recoils and spits a few times, fearing that the soldier's lingering cells might slip into his mouth. The two continue walking, one in front, one in the back. The stench of the cave grows stronger and stronger. Okay, what is easier to catch in this case? Oripathy or, I guess, seaborn metamorphosis? I wonder now. So many sea terror carcasses. Did you slay them all yourself? I couldn't allow them to climb onto the cliff. How long have you been here, fighting by yourself? Not long enough, she shakes her head. I once knew a captain. He called his ship the True Iberia. For his Iberia, he held out for 60 years. 60 years. We probably don't have that much time left, but as long as there are people still on the coastline, Iberia will not go down that easily. She speaks softly, and I won't go down that easily either. Okay, you think seaborn then. As long as you just eat it a tiny bit. True, though. Yeah, for Ripathy, that is kind of tricky. Inhaling, eating, wounded. But for seaborn, I wonder just how much you gotta take to become infected. That would be an interesting experiment. Do you think the Dokta is immune to seabornness? Can we just nom on a tentacle monster, or is it too risky? It might be fine. Maybe. They come to a narrow mountain crevice. There are no more sea terrors here, and the air outside is faintly palpable. You have to take the road below by yourself. Take my lantern with you. What about you then? Me? You still haven't figured it out yet? If you're that stupid, you must be pretty lucky to be alive. Her voice even holds a slight trace of laughter. I once met another Ager like you. Who knows? The two of you might just survive until the very end. Though the two clearly remain still, a shadow along the stone wall suddenly moves. Something slender slips out from beneath her cloak and squirms a few times before shrinking back. Shadow. Only then does the Ager understand why this person never carried her own lantern along the way. Oh. Whoops. Hello. I feel like the Dokta must be immune to seaborne assimilation. They're built different after all. They're probably immune to almost everything. And that's why, to debuff them, they have to be weak at everything else physically. The oof for this memory selection. It turns out, the soldier guessed correctly. But if even an Ager can lift the lantern of an Inquisitor, does the question of identity really matter anymore? This lantern is a symbol of the Inquisition, given light by the will of an Inquisitor. And now it is yours, Ager. Now, more than ever, your path, Iberia's path, is in need of light. The Ager holds on tight to the Inquisitor's lantern. What about you? Once I reach a safe place, I'll send people back to help. The Ager then thinks of the hand hidden beneath the cloak, realizing that these words have probably long since lost their meaning to the person in front of him. At least tell me your name. I am Irene, an Iberian. As the former Inquisitor finishes speaking, she walks towards the dark tide with her head held high. You go, Irene! And now for the first ending. We got this. Thorns and Irene's notes. I think it's cute though for Thorns. I do like how he was able to find his mentor and that the Seaborn were pretty nice to him. They're just like, hey there cousin, hi. You know you want to come home with us, cousin. Like they were surprisingly sweet to him. The oof for Irene's one. But yo, Irene is going around like a badass. She doesn't need her lantern, she has her forehead. True. You know, that is true. Now for the first ending. Precious days. Okay, that's cute. Precious daily. Intro. Everyday life is the greatest joy that fate bestows upon the living, and indeed, peaceful days are the most joyous of all. Wholesome. And now we go. Play. Stare. I love her outfit.
You've done well, Mizuki.
Sir.
She simply was not as perfect as you. She was so eager to change, even if the Herald's gift led her astray. That was nevertheless what she hoped for.
But what about her memories and her song? She seemed as fond of singing as ever. In that form, all she can manage is sounds that terrify her.
I only provide a choice. As for where the individual ends up, I don't think anyone else can make that decision.
You don't care at all about what she has become?
Individuals like that are indeed uncommon. Most humans have no idea what they are seeking, or are easily manipulated by some burst of emotion. When they swallow the gift of the Herald, their consciousness is subsumed by the instincts of we many, and they turn into a sea terror, or some kind of incomplete seaborn, eager to swim out into the ocean. Highmore was able to revert back from this state, presumably because she wished from the bottom of her heart to capture those human qualities she so cherished. Just like you, in a sense, Mizuki.
I do like his outfit. Mizuki's adorable. I especially love his bag.
But you did not undergo that process. Even if you accepted your seaborn form, your cognition of yourself would still shape you into what you are now. You accepted becoming seaborn in its entirety and decided to become human, just like I once did. But she failed. Because of fear or loneliness, I can't say for sure. As a result, she is trapped somewhere between success and failure. Though she has accepted the gift, her refusal to have anything else excised her from her naturally created a dissonance. If the blueprint for the future drafted by your experiment rejects those who aren't resilient enough, then it can't be a successful adaptation or evolution for humanity. True, my dear child. True indeed. I must return to the drawing board again, seeing as that is the answer you've given me.
Hello.
Do you still remember the question I asked you? How do you become a better human? You've given me a very good answer. See, rightfully accepting this power has opened your mind, and it seems you've already fully understood my goal. Perhaps, if I work hard enough, all humans who taste the fruit of the gods can become as wise as you.
Can a life form like that still be called human?
A true human would know how to utilize a strength of will that transcends physical matter to overcome the side effects of their trappings. At that stage, those who are unable to overcome, or only able to lament the weakness of their mind and body, are unfit to bear the weight of the title human.
Mizuki is the most adorable seaborn in that case. I will let Highmore live.
A benevolent decision, but you are free to do so as you see fit. Your every action will serve as an example to those who come after you. I am very glad to see you, Mizuki. Just as I said before, as long as you do not stray from your path, our fates will intersect eventually. We shall meet again.
Humph. He's as stubborn as ever. Sniffle. Sobs. You're awake? It must have taken a lot of energy to turn to that form. Want me to whip something up for you? Okay. Marcus probably wanted to look like that. He was probably like, you know what? I'm just gonna cast off my normal look and I want to become a tentacle monster. That is my dream. And his dream came true. But he still had to keep the glasses. No matter what, the glasses had to stay on for him. Wait, hold on. What's that? Cute, they're having skewers. Oh, these? They're your limbs. Oh, that's the skewers. Mmm, delicious. Recycling meat. Huh? You weren't able to complete your seaborn metamorphosis, so most of that proliferated tissue ended up falling off. I helped remove the rest of that stuff that was stuck onto you, so you should look like a completely normal person now. Nobody will ever know the difference. Come on, dig in while the meat's still fresh. You recover some of your strength, at least. Yummy! Recycling nutrients at its finest. I would eat it. I don't know about this one. Don't worry about it. This one cooks fast. That's not what I meant. Huh? Maybe I overcooked this first batch a little. Guess I'll try it first. Mizuki. Hmm? Are you hungry now? No. I wanted to ask about something else. Cicero left. I proved how blind and incompetent I am. I have nothing left. That might be true, but as long as I have good stuff to eat and drink, and games to play, life's pretty comfy for me. I love your priorities, Mizuki. Same. Mizuki would be me as a Seaborn too. It's like, as long as I got good food, drink, and games, I am set. Those hobbies that let you reject the Seaborn can also give you a purpose to live on, I'm sure of it. Are you sure you don't want a bite? I'm good. Alright. I didn't bring any dry food with me, but I do know a good place with lots of nice people who can cook all sorts of delicious food. Might even be able to help you get a sense of humanity again. How about it? Want to come with me? Okay. I wonder how a lot of the others would react to Mizuki. They'd be like, he seems surprisingly normal. Okay, maybe I should have looked at this first before pressing play. Too late though, hee hee. So part 1, Crossroads. The few defensive measures left behind in the asylum are obviously no match for Ulpianus. Upipi, how dare you not let me summon you? After brushing aside a trap or two and clearing out some Seaborn disguised as ordinary objects, he now finds himself standing inside Cicero's laboratory. Okay, it's cutscenes first, then to the ending notes? Okay, perfect then. For a few days, Ulpianus has followed the tracks of Cicero, a Church of the Deep bishop. When the bishop had no chance of surpassing Ulpianus in terms of strength or skill, he did seem to have a knack for prolonging his life. Leaving behind a severed limb, he fled from Ulpianus' grasp. Ordinarily, the experienced hunter would have given chase to finish off his wounded prey. However, one particular thought gave him pause. Generally speaking, the bishops of the deep tend to operate around Iberian settlements, often mingling with the villagers to spread their faith. However, this place was remote and barren. Even when the bishop was attacked, nobody came to his aid. No villagers, not even sea terrors. Truly an unprecedented occurrence. Unless... To assuage his doubts, Ulpianus decided to set aside the hunt for Cicero, instead searching the surrounding area to see if he could find any leads. After a few days, he discovered the asylum that housed Cicero's laboratory. Everything in the cave laboratory is neat and orderly, with all the documents and letters categorized and carefully stored in dry bookshelves. Ooh! Official Arknights cooking manga. And it even has Mizuki? Oh, that's adorable! Cooking manga. Ulpianus has no interest in Cicero's research. He has seen far too many experiments that blaspheme humanity and trample across ethical lines. What he cares about more is the correspondence between Cicero and the other Church of the Deep bishops. Normally, when a Church of the Deep bishop appears in Seaborn form, their research and letters will have been completely destroyed by their warped carcass. But not this time. Cicero obviously did not expect to be raided by an abyssal hunter. Perhaps he chose to flee in a completely different direction in an attempt to prevent Ulpianus from discovering his trove of knowledge. Out of caution, he glances across the catalog of research topics. After confirming that none of the now halted research topics would have any sort of influence in Ager, he turns his attention towards the personal notes and letters. Upon the envelope appear some names that make his heart skip a beat. There are people scattered among Ager's technical colleges, academics, and art world. Some were designated as the bishops of the deep many years ago. Most of them still maintain considerable status and influence in Ager to this day. Just from seeing these names, he can already surmise the extent of the damage the cult has inflicted upon the whole of Ager society. that was only the beginning. Information such as the close conversations that took place following the hunt of Isharmala, the bishop's surveillance and surviving abyssal hunters, the trajectory of Ager's movements over time revealed themselves to Opianus through the letters. As time passed, Isharmala's biological existence remained inside the body of the hunter who slew him, and the bishops began to take a greater interest in this particular hunter's whereabouts, as well as the movements of the other Leviathans. As of the more recently dated letters, the bishops seem to have reached a conclusion. They wish to send the hunter who slew Isharmala back to the ocean. Only then can Isharmala awaken once more, as long as he can meet the one who caused the profound silence. As for his personal opinion, Cicero seemed to believe that the profound silence would speed up the amalgamation of humanity and Seaborn, and that the technology to transform the abyssal hunters may become mainstream in Ager. When a generation of human beings accepts the gifts in order to fight against the Seaborn, they will then be able to give birth to the perfect humans he envisions. Without a doubt, he sought to advance his plans despite the disagreement of the other bishops. The words written on the letters are like a traveling net, attempting to entangle and kill the abyssal hunters and Ager within it. But even to the end, Opianus is unable to piece together the complete picture of the conspiracy. He has run out of time. As he reaches out towards the unread letter, seawater suddenly rushes into the laboratory, the torrent consuming all of Cicero's research. Then, the sea terrors follow. The sea terrors that seemingly swarm the entire asylum slither, tear, and bite, trying to free their kin from within Opianus' body. Oh, these aren't his nice cousins. Opianus raises the anchor. He has already heard about the incident at Salviento. Even now, the Church of the Deep still plans on designing a hunter who can capture him. As long as he knows, as long as he still lives, he will not allow that to happen. Alrighty. I'm wondering, like, how would the person that they're planning on creating to capture Opianus be like? They'd be terrifying. Now, part 2. To usurp divinity. Seaborn are cute little guys when they're alone, but as soon as there's a group... True. To usurp divinity, all living things have the instinct to grow, survive, reproduce, and migrate, constantly walking down the path of evolution in order to adapt to their environment. How's the read so far? Pretty cute overall. I like how Mizuki's willing to eat his buddy's limbs. It's like, hey girl, you know you want to eat these. They're delicious, come on. Recycle your nutrients. You don't want any? Okay, that's fine, more for me. Nom 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 nom. But why do there exist creatures that pursue self-optimization with an uncanny persistence far surpassing that what can be considered individual survival instinct, as if pulled along by some higher purpose? Ager will not give me an answer. I knocked on the doors of the Church of the Deep, if only to seek their resources and their perspectives. But even after extensive research, accumulating fame, and becoming a respected bishop, I only ever got answers like, everything is touched by God's hand, which did not satisfy me. I once again took up my position as a biologist, and tried to survey all the life forms on this continent, and though I dare not say my search was exhaustive, I ultimately could not find an answer despite observing countless organisms. Only the creatures of the ocean continue to defy every existing theory or hypothesis. In the end, I must admit that God does in fact exist, not a god like Isharmala, or a metaphysical deity from the people's imaginations. There must be some noble will that transformed them and gave them a higher calling, driving them to become far more efficient and orderly than humans and further explore the possibilities of life until they finally become God. Even when I was young, my colleagues and I have been astounded by the social structure of the bee colonies we observed on land. And now, we're in the cusp of having a blueprint for living organisms that is far more logical and ideal than even a bee colony. In the never-ending cycle of the distribution and circulation of resources, all conflict and hatred must be ended through the expurgation of the soil in which they take root. There is no need to elucidate God's true form, nor to speculate on the meaning of God. I will find God's laboratory, usurp God's olive branch, and bring fruit to mankind, even if it's not meant to be supped upon by mankind. And this, indubitably, is the right granted to every human researcher who attempts to overcome this dilemma. And now for part 3. The sound of withering. The elder shakes his head, placing the thing that had slipped from the girl's hand, the oath he exchanged with the herald, into the box. Though the girl had accompanied him and studied under him for several years, the old man has always been hesitant to give her that which she sought, precisely because of what is now happening. Disturbing patterns begin to blossom one by one, silently clawing their way through the gravel. Her very existence seems to tear apart her surroundings, plants and flowers wilting around her, sapped of their vitality. The value of a sea terror has always been played as a harmonious role within the cycle of nature's ecology, taking nutrients from it as needed, and returning them to it as needed, all to create a more agreeable environment for its kin. But her life does not. Contradictory needs torment her and everything around her. Now, the power she once wished for flows through her, but she cannot envision herself holding on to the things she finds beautiful in life. Even the wondrous singing voice passed down to her through her mother's blood is drowned out by the calls of we many. Pain. Pain is all that is trying to tear her body apart, roaring out around her with an inaudible remorse. This pain stems only from her resistance, her unwillingness, her incompleteness. She cannot accept herself. She does not accept the calls issued to her by we many. But she also cannot accept the humans who slew her parents. Always losing things, always having things taken away. Why must it always be her? Why? Must she give her own life force to we many, or to the humans? Just to preserve their living space? She rejects all of it. But after what seems like an eternity, she appears to finally exhaust her ability to resist. A bouquet of beautiful yet empty flowers blooms along the gravel, hesitating, withering. Oh, for part 3, I feel bad for her. It's like, oh, I got what I wanted, but at what cost? The cost of everything else, basically. The ultimate oof. At least the cutscene for Precious Days was cute. And then, we went through the records. Just oof. Oof, oof, oof. I know, right? Poor Highmore. At least in the cutscene, she's happy with Mizuki, and then Mizuki's gonna take her on a nice food venture. They're gonna eat some delicious stuff on the land. And then she'll be happy. Right? Yeah. Well, Upipi in the underwater laboratories is just doing as he do, you know? Going around and researching. I know, right? Highmore's adorable. She's precious. And I'm happy that she has Mizuki to go around with her. Mizuki's a good boy. Hey, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I still gotta watch both. I am planning on going through the trailers soon. I had to make sure that I had some stuff ready for tonight. And then I do want to watch the Kamen Rider series. Thank goodness for YouTube. And now we're going out here. Let me find the other one. So for the second part, ending 2. Ah yes, but let's just change the music first. For this one, we're gonna go for Tree. Or maybe Chorus of the Many. Or actually, which one do you think will be best for number 2? Ending number 2. Of course, we had to start off with the Caerula Arbor. But now the others. Oh, so many decisions. You'll leave it up to me. Alrighty. Okay, well, ending 2 is night. So which one gives a nice vibe for the night? Maybe Traveler / Conqueror. Let's do that. That's right. And now we stare into the void. So the background for night. The flames in the sky burn wantonly, turning into a faint residual warmth when they land on the Knights. He goads his mount and gallops atop the waves. He gazes out, and there is nothing but pure azure all around him, the sound of rushing waves ever incessant. The ears of wheat are calling. The wheat seeds are sown into the ocean, and the ocean drowns them. The merciless ocean slaughters wantonly and rejects life. Life needs the night, and the night shall charge forward. Slay the ocean! Slay the ocean! A windless day. The ocean surface as serene as a mirror. The knight smashes the mirror underfoot and looks at his reflection, seeing only an illusion of himself treading across the sky. Eyes cast down upon the masses. The knight lifts his lance to thrust, and his fake points his weapon at the sea. Suddenly, the ocean caves in and a storm rushes forth, the sea and the sky joining forces to kill the knight. Civilization despises him, yet nature also rejects him. The name of his enemy is Terra. The knight leaps up, but comes crashing down heavily. The shadows lurking within the tides, are they kin? They summon the tides forth. They seek to bring the knight to his knees. He rises to the surface and leaps back out, again and again. Grovel? Admit defeat? Never, never. The knight is his own master. He always holds his head high. I do like the knight. He is pretty cool. He's a fun dude. I love whenever he appears with a seahorse. And we're keeping this song. And now we'll go through 3 and 4. Starting with Memory 3, Watchman. Only he burns bright as daylight. Yay. The sound clip they play for the horse is fun. Part 1. The weather on the Iberian coastline can be fickle. Jordi Fontanarosa has an important job to do every Sunday afternoon, but today he simply cannot bear the sound of the rain falling outside, each drop feeling like a hammer blow to his heart. He knows the name of his feeling. He cannot continue to write, and puts down his pen to try and leave the paper-filled room. He smells the familiar scent of wet earth, mixed with a faint tinge of blood. It does not just represent the type of weather or season, but a difficult period. Whenever there is news from the front, whenever the wet air fills his nostrils, Jordi is again reminded of the times. It has been like this ever since the fall of the Ager. Hello, hello. It is almost dusk. Though Iberia's last rebout is bright as midday under the illumination of countless lights, Jordi tries to ignore the chatter ignore the chatter of the penal battalion officers in their dull and strictly regulated tones. The words spoken here behind the front lines are neither determined nor despondent, but largely numb and indifferent. Jordy counts his own steps until he collides head-on with someone else. "Sorry, sir." The man's youth surprises Jordy. He's about Jordy's height, sturdy in build, but missing an arm. He has not bothered to wipe away the blood on his face. Despite being here at headquarters, Jordy thought he must have been a veteran of many battles, but when his gaze meets the young man's eyes, and the battered lantern and sword in the young man's baggage, he realizes that it is a young trainee inquisitor from Ager. Jordy once knew a young inquisitor like him. "Have you just returned?" "Yes, Sir Secretary." The young inquisitor's tone is surprisingly calm, as though he has left the nightmares of the battlefield behind. But Jordy knows that it is a tragic sort of acclamation to the cruelties of war. He had seen it far too many times. He steps aside to give way for the young inquisitor. He knows that his type is few and far from between these days. The young inquisitor nods and passes by Jordy. His silhouette is unsteady, looking as though it could melt into the shadows of the buildings at any moment. Jordy turns around and asks, "What is your name?" "Matthias, sir." "That's not an Ager name." "My foster mother is Iberian, only my Ager surname remains." The young inquisitor hesitates, as though deliberating whether to spend valuable time talking about such private matters, but eventually he says, "Ryogan." "What?" "My family's name is Ryogan. I don't know anything about it other than the name. I don't even know if it's supposed to be a family name, or the name of one of my ancestors our home has." "Ah, Ryogan. Well, he found a descendant. Amazing!" It is fun learning about other characters. Jordy Fontana Rosa falls silent. It is a young inquisitor who eventually breaks the silence. "I understand that you're Saint Carmen's apostle?" The name makes Jordy's heart ache. He feels his stomach churn and wants to throw up. Fighting back the sensation of vertigo, he answers in a low voice, "Yes." Then he asks, almost self-depreciatingly, "Are you disappointed? Disappointed that I'm not fighting with you in the front at a time like this?" "No, sir." Realizing that Jordy misunderstood what he meant, the young inquisitor smiles wryly. "St. Carmen says that we are the keepers of the flame, but you and the others like you are the flame." Oh, that's sweet. That is adorable. Jordy has to hold back a lump in his throat and force a smile. "Thank you. Perhaps it's a coincidence, but the name Ryogan is not known to me. There's no evidence linking me to him, but I know some stories about Ryogan. I know the legends of the ship, right, Sir Secretary?" "No." Jordy pauses for a moment, as memories gush to the surface. "I've been to Ager. I've been home." The young inquisitor's eyes light up for an instant, but his longing for his bloodline is soon suppressed by other matters. "Thank you. I hope we meet again." The young inquisitor leaves. The rain is getting heavier. Jordy returns to his disorganized office, to the sound of the bell announcing the nightly hours. He cleans up the mess on his desk, returning to the presentable state that it was several weeks ago. He takes a deep breath, but he could no longer hold back his emotions. Fear, sorrow, and resentment swallow him in an instant. He chokes on his own sobbing, and it is all he could do to prevent his tears from falling onto the typewriter. He types a line beneath "Missing Persons." "Carmen I. Iberia. Confirmed dead." Aw. Aw, what a start to this section. Part 2. 1,300 kilometers. takes a moment for Jordy to realize that he made the exclamation. As eyes around the hall turn towards him, the first to understand the significance of what he said is the High Inquisitor Irene, who stops to gaze at the map in the middle of the hall. 1,300 kilometers from the lighthouse of Gran Faro. Irene lets herself sink in her memories for a moment. Our national border, humanity's line of defense, has retreated by 1,300 kilometers. Jordy sighs. It could have been worse if not for the support of the other countries. At the same time, it also means that the entire might of Terra is gathered on the defensive lines of Iberia. There is no second line of defense. For all intents and purposes, this 1,300 kilometers of land belongs to the oceans now. That is a lot. Jordy continues to gaze across the hall, unsure where to go to. The line is far from secure. The Seaborn are not only invading through Iberia, Sargon, Ursus, Yan. The fires of war have spread across the land. Yes, this is our mission. If any Victorian Viscount or Padishah of Sargon could be a deep cultist, then all is lost. This time, however, we killed the bishops leading those sea terrors, leaving none alive. If the Seaborn continue to invade the land, someone is guiding them. Jordy is stunned, but the deep Viscount is dead, and the hands of the Lathanian lawkeepers. Could there be another? Or perhaps the collective had sensed a greater danger, and is thus trying to assimilate and consolidate the land ecosystem for the sake of its survival. Irene stops before a massive door. Jordy realizes that he has never been here before, despite having worked at this place for more than a decade. Oh my goodness, working there for more than a decade? Therefore, we must succeed. Irene turns around, her still youthful face hardened by weariness. I have been restored to the station of High Inquisitor. I can see that. You already were in all but name. As High Inquisitor, there is something I must ask of you. Irene raises her lamp. Light fills the hall and opens a gap in the door as it drives out the shadows. A lantern. The great room might have been a prison, then a furnace, a workshop. Now, as various items lie covered in dust in the corners, there's a single lantern in the middle of the room. A Seaborn was once held here. Every Inquisitor came to learn the truth about the ocean before they were ordained. Irene's voice is utterly calm, but there is no need for that anymore. So, the place has been repurposed into a furnace? Yes. And the lamp? Irene approaches it, as though approaching a god that does not exist. She picks it up, and light fills Jordy's vision. Not so much as a flame as a sun. Carmen, Dario, Johann, Carlos. All the inquisitorial lanterns that we could retrieve, reforged into one. We have thought long and hard about what to call it, but we have made no decision. Irene seizes her casting, and the light returns to its tiny glass prison. The Inquisition has entrusted the task to you. Me? Don't you know how to use a lantern? I've been taught by Saint Carmen, but I'm no Inquisitor. It does not matter. All that matters is that you can light it, or seek the next one who can. If you cannot dispel your doubts. Irene smiles. Jordy recalls with a start that the two of them are the same age. You have borne witness to the struggles of the Inquisition, watches over the triumphs from the lighthouse. You remember the brave martyrs, the innocent victims. The lantern is not murder, it is hope. Irene pauses for an instant, then continues. You must remember it. Pass it on. What about you? Jordy's words left his mouth before he even realized it. We have a code name for the Seaborn we must kill. Its name is... Irene lets go and heads toward the door in the flickering light of the shadow. Gladia. Gladia? Uh-oh.
Gladia?
Okay. Only Thorns, Irene, and Ending 1 are the events that actually happened. Alrighty. Part 3. When Yordi bid farewell to Kelsey, the familiar woman had become a stranger. She was the builder of the last city, not the Dr. Kelsey who taught Operator Lumen on that little ship. The people from Kelsey's memory were not by her side, and Yordi had lost much of himself. Yordi never mentioned Rhodes Island in that short time he lived in that city, fearing that the past would trigger the few remaining vestiges of hope. The ocean remains dangerous, even if we've come to terms with our place. Kelsey was not surprised at Yordi's request. We've been allowed to survive as an ancillary to the ecosystem, slave to the many, a part of the symbiosis. It doesn't mean that we can. Kelsey stops, seemingly recalling the man coming to bid her farewell. Came from the eye of the maelstrom. I know. Yordi smiles, but I want to see the sea. Do you need an escort? No, not for an old paper pusher that no one cares about. Kelsey said no more. She quickly arranged a vehicle and some supplies for Yordi. Certainly, going home is not something to cause a commotion over. Yordi takes one last look at the city before he leaves. It no longer needs to move. The collective will only permits civilization that is at peace and forever at a standstill. He remembers that he has never fully fought on the front lines or helped to build a city. His work has always been insignificant. When the lighthouse is lit, it is the light that guides the ships and Iberia, not the watchman of the lighthouse. He sits by a cliff. Coral-colored creatures stir the waters for miles, and smooth-shelled creatures rattle along the trail of waves. The sea is calm and peaceful, not a cloud in sight. Having conquered humanity, originium, demons, and beings beyond reason, the way that the Seaborn observe the world is no longer limited to sensations that humans can't comprehend. I like how... dang, look at the Seaborn. Conquering humanity, originium, demons, and everything else. Yordi knows that the new chitin god lingers somewhere above the waves. At the most remote corner between the sun and the clouds, its tendrils have left the pocket where it had hid at the very moment that this human left his nest and headed for the coast, on guard against each and every move made by this anomalous individual. Today, it is Terra, and it is a beacon for its kin who has ventured beyond the skies. Oh, they even made it beyond the skies, holy cow! Surprisingly, the individual seems to have detected its will with his primitive human eyes. Hello, ocean. Yordi speaks, like an old man telling a story to a child, unconcerned whether the individual constitutes of the many remaining on Terra can hear him. My name is Yordi Fontana Rosa. I was once an insignificant enemy of yours. With his self-introduction, Yordi begins to tell the story of his life. Grandfaro, Ager, Saltafera Navis, Abyssal Hunter, Home, War, Collapse, Awakening, God, Truth, Failure, Death, Parting, Shame, Peace. How much time has passed? Oh my goodness. His words are sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes loud, sometimes short. No one answers save for the wind brushing by the strange palms by the share, through the holes in the coral mountains. Eventually, the old man runs out of words. He gazes at the shore. Without warning, the ocean responds to his thought. Microorganisms turn the sea murky. drawing numerous shelled sea terrors, which merge together, twisting and warping themselves into a small boat. The many have read his thoughts and expressed them. But Jordy no longer cares why they did so. He smiles and shakes his head. No, you're wrong. I'm sorry, but you lost. The waves do not answer. The last watchman of Iberia does not speak. The sun continues to shine. The sounds of the winds, waves, and shells rubbing against one another converge and then tune themselves into the specific wavelength and frequency. One of the many, and all of the many, and to the last words of one little individual on their home planet. Goodbye. Jordi Fontanarosa. Goodbye. Well, yep, he met a dead end here. Dang though. He's the last one remaining. Very, very dedicated. His is the most oof so far. And then now we go to number 4. Let's see how number 4 will be. Starbound Bubbles. Well, it sounds cute so far, just based on the name. Perhaps there will always be an impulse urging us to cast aside gravity and the bonds to home chaining us down, to throw ourselves into the sea and the starry skies. Part 1. The girl wakes up from the dream with a start. The starlight in her dream lingers in her mind. How long has it been since she started traveling and studying with Grandpa Bishop? The girl finds it difficult to trace the passage of time, for her life is divided into the time before she witnessed the starlight and the time after. She believes that she is awake, serious, determined. If there is something that can prove the value of life, value the truth of her thoughts, she will reach out to it, embrace it. Grandpa said that not everyone walks the same bridge. Nor is it a privilege to walk that bridge. Humanity's possibilities are infinite. All means are merely tools. And it is the end, not the means, that should become the object of worship. He always preached recognizing what one truly wants to do and become, and refusing to accept easy, simple answers. But I have seen my path. It lies before me. The opportunity of a lifetime. The pact that Grandpa made with his old friend lies silent in the box. Grandpa must have run into trouble because he has not been back for 2 days. One more day, and this hideout and everything here will be destroyed, as he arranged. But none of this matters. Its pulse and breath guide my heartbeat. It is a salvation that I had long sought but never received. Reach out, open the box, drink the pact of the ocean, and I will return to the day when the time stopped, and rebuild myself with the starlight reflected off the ocean, off the surface of the ocean. If the starlight is too bright, then I will go blind for it. Part 2. The girl wakes up from the dream with a start. The starlight in her dream lingers in her mind. She looks at one hand and the other, and perhaps the other too. She finds that they and they are scooping up handful after handful of starlight. How could it be? How could the starlight that was so far away be so easily grasped in her hands? The joy is intense. She subconsciously spreads herself out and begins to spin and dance. The stars seem to understand her joy and begin to dance in orbit around her, even without music? It should not be so. Limbs are rhythm, and starlight melody. But why is there no song? Is there no instrument? No. Why is it dark? Why does the starlight not shine upon here, or upon me? Why is it not warm? Is it because it is dry? Do the limbs not feel warmth because they are dry? Does the throat make no sound because it is dry? Then look up and call for rain. Drown out the noises and sing one last song. Warm musical notes fall from the from my hide, one after another, transforming into a shining, translucent melody, wrapped in bubbles of every color. I will become starlight. Part 3. The girl wakes up from the dream with a start. Her starlight in her dream lingers in her mind. Highmore feels no cold, even though she lay on the deck and awoke to the soft and cool touch of the night. Perhaps she never fell asleep, only let her consciousness drift for a moment. It has been too long since she desired sleep from physical fatigue. The blood and flesh of Seaborn have made her strong and resilient, and virtually eliminated the need for sleep. Wait, it eliminates the need for sleep? Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. Embracing Seaborn is fine. I'll do it. I will do it. But the mind does not acclimate to the long waking hours so quickly. What if the starlight in the reverie did not come from beneath the surface of consciousness, but from the tangible sky above? She dreamt of the starlight countless times, but she does not recall the last time she looked up at the starry sky. When was the last time? All she can recall is that the gloom in Iberia's skies never seemed to scatter. Highmore remembers a story her parents told her in her childhood. Iberian once hoped to rely on the stars to navigate the seas, but were frustrated by the mystery of the starry heavens. Starlight seemed to have no discernible pattern, and some occultists even suspected them to be reflections or premonitions of events on the ground. It was only when some of the Aegir came on land with their technology, working with Iberia to build lighthouse after lighthouse along the coastline to guide the navigation of ships, that Iberia forsook gazing upon the stars and conquered the seas. Am I no different from the home I detested? Blinded by the inscrutable stars, lost in the arms of the ocean, and... A thought comes to Highmore's mind. She stands up slowly. Lighthouses light the way home for lost ships. Perhaps it is why they attracted sea terrors, and were the first to be destroyed when the tide came. She would not let this happen to her next home. Alrighty. Ooh. Okay, good to know. What's better to watch first, actually? Kamen Rider Zero one or Kamen Rider the Gyatso one? And now for ending number 2. Ending number 2. Age of the Silence. Yeah, I feel bad for our boy. Our boy got the saddest one. Highmore's one was actually kind of cute. Kind of. A little bit. Just like the tiniest bit. Dancing and singing and stars. Adorable. Age of the Silence. The calamity that once destroyed Iberia surges again, and this time it shall not recede. Very, very edgy. Bleh.
You've brought the waves.
Low-pitched braying.
Not kin. The scent of soil. The seeds fall into the ocean, blooming into cerulean flowers. These are not the terrible waves.
Ears perk up attentively.
The terrible waves.
The night's soliloquy comes to an abrupt end. The sound of the surging waves, the whistling of foul beasts, and the howling of the strident wind. In that instant, everything disappears. In complete silence, the wind rises and the clouds surge. After the moment of silence, the waves ascend, and calamity descends once again. Ishar Malal leads wee many from the depths of the tides. No longer is Iberia the sole victim. Every corner of the land shall be drowned out by the profound silence. The knight has lost his voice. He suddenly jerks the reins of his mount and aims the tip of his lance across the other side of the ocean. He lets out a great roar that makes his skull tremble, but when the sound reaches his ears, it is nothing more than a strange, shrill hiss. His arms are shaking, his breaths become rapid, and Rocinante keeps shaking its head. The seaborn instinct continuously pushes back against the internecine savagery. But the knight pays no heed to the cruel truth behind these physiological reactions. He is resolute in his belief that they arise from an uncontrollable ecstasy within his heart. After all, the terrible waves he has been chasing for such a long time are before his very eyes. Look at him! Look at him go after the giant beastie. Like, oh my goodness, that is a big size difference. You go, sir. That is the origin of his fate, the cause of the terrible waves. Ishar Mala, the knight still remembers his name. It is he who stirs the waves. It is he who drives the sea to swallow the land. It is he who speaks for the ocean. Thus, as long as this grand life form falls here, the ocean will forever be silent, and there will be no more waves. The seawater slams against his armor, causing a roar akin to a metallic Fernmut stampeding across the land. Well, Isharmala looks super cool here versus inside of Opianus' event, so if anything, Scotty probably made him look extra badass. I know that kind of helps. Maybe watching Gyat's before 01 is better then? For Kamen Rider? The rain dilutes the taste of rust in his breath, but brings the stench of life to his nostrils. The tide tries to hold down his lance, and the currents drag him back towards the land. The whole world is holding back the night. The ears of wheat are swaying. The pomegranate flowers are calling. The loyal mount snorts, slapping the surface of the ocean with its snout in dissatisfaction. Amidst the silence, the madman guffaws. And thus, the last knight leaps forth. You go! Now part 1. Final Bastion. It is currently 8 in the morning. The sky is completely dim, and torrential rain pounds ceaselessly upon the ground, but the people continue to walk forward mechanically and numbly, seemingly paying no heed to the wrath of the heavens. Compared to the hope of survival and the fear of death, a little stroll through the rain is hardly a concern. They are already far more fortunate than most. While their human compatriots scattered through the wilderness are slaughtered by the seaborn, they will quickly make their way into a city that appears impregnable. Kelsey rarely lets her emotions show, but as she stands on the high walls looking over the procession of refugees stretching out to the horizon, the frown on her brow does not relent. With Isharmala having gone completely rampant, the profound silence first swallowed the coastlines before all sound and terror completely disappeared. The seaborne sea terrors began to assemble into packs and marched upon the land. Eager trapped beneath the waves without any communication, the armies of the various countries disintegrated, and all of Terra was plummeted into chaos. So far, all attempts at solidarity have proven useless. Even the combined forces of Kashimir's Knight Orders and Athenians' Gesalt's Watchers were unable to withstand the seaborne tides for even a single day. Wow, not even a single day. By sacrificing their lives, the Emperor's blades were able to hold the national defense line, but this only brought enough time for mankind's retreat. A few months later, the seaborne adapted to the Empire's traits and penetrated through the troublesome barrier, and humanity suddenly found themselves with no weapons they could rely on. Columbia's cutting-edge technology join with Sami's ancient arts to try to open up more avenues of retreat, while Great Yan and the remnants of the various countries' armies attempted to consolidate into mankind's final bastion. The soldiers are all united, manning the stronghold with a determination beyond death. For each extra day they stand, countless more lives can be saved, until the last flag falls, until the last immovable Tianchi of Great Yan watches the distant ranks of civilians and meets his death in a brief yet eternal grief. From the day of the profound silence once again befell humanity, Kelsey has practically foreseen the demise of humanity, but the doctor's miraculous survival as well as her sense of responsibility to protect humanity still drove her to find a way to build a city that can allow the human species to live on. She begged and pleaded with a number of Fahrenmuts, reaching agreements with several beast aristocrats. She manages to recover several pieces of ancient human technology needed to finally erect this spectacle, humanity's final bastion. These technologies, the way they were put together, the way they were applied for creation rather than destruction. Each one of these topics is itself worthy of an entire book. These things were originally the hope of humanity to break free from its limitations. Now, they have become the pen and ink by which humanity has drawn its own prison. What worries her even more is that, despite all this, the city is still unable to accommodate all the survivors. In other words, when the city has gone past its capacity, she must slam its gates shut. Oh no! The city that she made is kind of like the Ark inside of Nike. Oh, that's not good. In other words, a considerable portion of people will be made to face the despair hidden behind hope. And those who happen to survive can only witness this tragedy and accept it. This decision that cannot be stayed by kindness, compassion, or zealotry. Amiya has already cried over this dilemma numerous times. She must be the one to steel her heart, make the impossible decision, and deal with its fallout. There may well be unrest in the city once she does so, simply because she is the highest authority in charge of Rhodes Island. Kelsey knows that this is too cruel, but in the face of hell itself, even she has no tricks left up her sleeves. If the situation were as simple as sacrificing herself for a greater cause, then Kelsey would not mind giving up her near eternal life. But what about sacrificing herself for an elusive, ephemeral hope for the species' survival? Every theory, every idea, she has already tried her utmost to put them into practice. There's only so much Rose Island can do. Kelsey gazes into the distance. The heavy rain pours down, but no sound reaches her ears. Beads of water continue to hammer against her skin, as if trying to wash her away. She lets out a sigh, and gestures for the doctor beside her to return and seek shelter from the rain. What Kelsey does not know is that, in Iberia's royal court, thousands of miles away, Ishar Mallah is currently leaping across space, observing the person at her side, of what little humanity remains inside her. Only this silhouette seems to linger. Thus, she continues to will her swarm forward, just to reach the doctor as quickly as possible. To reach the doctor as quickly as possible. That dedication. Scotty never could have imagined that the bit of comfort she found in her personal relationships would lead to the destruction of an entire species. That is sad. The one part that remained in her. Doctor! The doctor will be on my side. Oof. Until all of humanity is reduced to one single entity, an individual known as the Doctor. There is only the Doctor here. Well, maybe the others can be fine if we go for her? Maybe? Now part 2, Resistance. The last night falls before Isharmala. The silence has ascended once more, and the seaborn eagerly march upon the land. Mizuki uses his tentacles to push the sea terrors aside, trying to protect the doctor from harm. Thank you, Mizuki! Now that the Leviathan has awakened and the waves claw at the clouds, to leave the doctor stranded on a little island in the ocean is to leave them for dead. To ensure the doctor may survive, Mizuki carries them on his back and swims back towards land. Yo, thank you, Mizuki. Mizuki may have been able to deal with a few sea terrors, but when the Seaborn block his way, when facing the interrogation of the entity of we many, Mizuki cannot help but feel the immense pressure weighing on him. How can one individual in a collective rebel against the will of the whole? Isharmala's pheromones are delivered directly to his brain. It is his wish for Mizuki to leave this human behind. Absolutely not. The doctor must return to land alive. Mizuki has never cared about the fate of mankind, but he does care about the doctor, and he knows that they would not wish to witness humanity's demise. Aww! Thank you, Mizuki. Mizuki's like, I know family's saying to take you to them, but no, I will resist. I don't care about anyone else besides you, doctor. Wow, Mizuki. That is adorable. That is sweet. So he rejects the Leviathan, rejects we many, and returns the doctor back to the land. He crosses the blockade established by his kin, and places the doctor upon the shore. With a smile, he tells them to report to their companions, while he fends off the Seaborn's march. They will believe me because I'm also Seaborn, Mizuki says to the doctor. Thankfully, they believe these words and leave. Now, Mizuki will finally be able to truly buy some time for the doctor, for Rose Island, and for humanity. Mizuki exhales and adjusts his pheromone expression. In an instant, the Seaborn fall into confusion, unable to comprehend why their own kin was displaying hostility towards we many. After a period of confusion, we many decides to prioritize the removal of the hostile individual. No! Instantly, the Seaborn changed their direction and rushed towards Mizuki as he swims out into the open sea. Across an extremely long span of time, Mizuki's hostility-laced pheromones continue to surface clearly within the collective consciousness of we many. Like a drop of blood splashing upon a sheet of white paper, they do not dissipate for a long, long time. But in the end, he too dissipates. Aw, man. Mizuki! You're a real one. And now, part 3. Ashes to Ashes. Mizuki's consciousness dissipates into the ocean. He no longer can maintain his human form. His body begins to distend. A Seaborn with jellyfish-like body appears within the water. His organs can still maintain the basic functionalities of life, but that too will not last for long. Attracted by the scent of blood, a number of sea terrors and Seaborn approach, encircling around him. They are awaiting the complete death of their kin. Only then will they partake of his flesh and blood, returning their kin back to the cycle of we many. Mizuki gradually sinks into the water. Whether from waiting too long or because of Isharmala's call, the Seaborn and sea terrors congregating at the water's surface no longer seem obsessed with the life and death of this one individual. He is left alone as he continues to sink. After consuming the remaining energy in his body, Mizuki's core heart analog finally stops beating. Death arrives swiftly, silently. His body begins to contract, the once outstretched appendages crushed into a ball by the pressure of the water. He continues shrinking, regressing, until he was reduced to a single minuscule cell, drifting along the currents of the deep sea. He lands upon a single withered branch. It is the dead titan of the abyss, the progenitor of the Seaborn, the creeping branch. Like Mizuki, his consciousness is long perished. His enormous form continues to grow out only out of instinct. No longer does he remember the meaning of new life, and even if new branches grow, they are already withered and dead. But nevertheless, this rotting giant continues to provide countless Seaborn with a bite of all-important sustenance. Even at this moment, He is being fed upon by countless young seaborn. One of these newborns sees Mizuki's cell and wriggles its tail fin, trying to swallow its kin's gift. But before its mouth appendage can touch its meal, a segment of the dead branch engulfs Mizuki, layer upon layer. The young seaborn swims away. There is too much food here and too many options. There is no need to compete with the venerable deceased for nourishment. And thus, Mizuki's journey comes to an end. Years later, upon a withered branch, dark blue leaves begin to grow. Well, that's an ending. Yay for Mizuki not being eaten and becoming a beautiful, beautiful leaf. Still pretty oof. I know, right? That is terrifying how the tree is big enough to provide sustenance to everyone. All of those wee many. So many wee many. The first ending was on the cuter side. More adorable. Minus Upipi's journey. And then this one. This one is like the ultimate oof. Poor Scotty. The only part of her remaining in is Sharmila. Her wanting to see the doctor. And of course, because she wants to see the doctor, that helps lead to the bad end. Ouch. And poor Amiya having to make the big decision of who can enter and who cannot enter the safe hold. Oh, precious bestie, I'm sorry, Amiya. That must really hurt for her. Good night to you. Good night, good night. I do like how the last night tried its best at the end. I know, right? It was just her birthday too, and then reading this. I'm sorry, Amiya. On the bright side, I got Amiya her nice outfit. It took all of the rest of my cubes, but I gave it to her. It's okay, I can get more of those later. She's worth it. The bestie is always worth it. Quite the timing. Happy birthday, Amiya. Oh, yo, this is like an extreme start to this. I wonder how much of a roller coaster endings 3 and 4 will be. But I'm gonna split them in half. I'm happy right now that it's just been chill since I wanna be able to, you know, gain a bunch more offerings to the upcoming banners. I'm happy for a rerun event. I really have to summon all of the Dungeon Meshi collab characters. And I do want Pepe. I need them. I need it. Oh. Ooh. The skin was released in all of the servers at the same time? Nice. I'm happy about that. I'm glad we didn't have to wait. Amiya's that good. She deserves all the best. You want Marcel so bad. Super good luck with the summoning. I hope we all get super lucky. Because going from a collab banner, or limited collab, to another limited banner is gonna be the ultimate oof. But the gacha gods might be kind. Let's just believe. We're gonna hope for the best. And there's time for our luck to replenish. It'll be a new year after all. That means our luck replenishes. So it'll be fine. Should be. Hopefully. True. Oh man, though, for ending 3 and 4, I wonder how that's gonna be. Your luck was so good these past few months that you're afraid of the karma. It's okay. The year will replenish, and then all of that will disappear. I'm hoping anyways. Fingers crossed. I want luck to replenish. I need it. I really need it. For continuing this next week, Oddball Sensei, what sounds good? What day be good? I'm enjoying this so far. It's interesting knowing that Mizuki is actually one of the Seaborn and how he's just so chill about everything. Mizuki is the ultimate Seaborn. Best Seaborn. But yeah, for next week, pretty much most of my days are open except for the eve and the day of for New Year's. Okay. Have I seen the Enfield trailer? Yes. Oh, that game's gonna be so hype. Fingers crossed we get to play the beta test. And okay, if you're free next... Ooh. Maybe the same day then. Or actually, I gotta check. I'm just gonna make sure first before I finalize anything. But if any day is good for continuing this, perfect. I just gotta make sure how it's gonna be next week. I think I should only be busy for New Year's Eve and New Year's, but just in case, well, there's time to prepare at least. Enfield's gonna be amazing. Though I'm gonna have to get used to calling the operators that we know by different names in that game. Like, sure, I could call them by the same names that we gave them or they have in Arknights, but no. I will have to learn to be good in Enfield and call them by their proper names. In Enfield anyways. Or maybe as a cute nickname, I can still call them by the same name. That's how it works, right? As a nice little nickname. Exactly. Angelina to Gilberta. That's gonna take some getting used to. Like, holy cow. Ooh. Bird Story is Finding Paradise prologue, and it's kind of short and unique and it has no dialogue. Ooh. Oh, that's gonna be interesting to go through. Oh ho ho. I wonder how it's gonna be like in Sami. That's probably gonna be a wild ride. But when we eventually get to that, that's gonna be fun. Especially if it's as crazy as how it's like this is for the integrated strategy for Caerula Arbor. Because oh my goodness, this is like a lot. But in a good way. I appreciate it. It's fun. And I'm happy that I was able to go through ending 1 and 2 today. At a decent time, so then if 3 and 4 are around the same length, perfect. And heck, one thing that I'm super happy about tonight is that there's actually really good dinner. It finished right before the stream started, so that means it's still on the fresher side. There's hamburger with pan-fried onions. There's a mysterious salad. And there's wontons, fried wontons. So it's gonna be amazing. I get to eat good tonight. I'm a feast. Watch when I go out, everything's gonna be eaten already because it's so good. Actually, no. I shouldn't jinx that. If anything, little bro would probably eat all the wontons. And if I miss out on that, boo! As long as I can have a burger with onions, that's fine. I can be satisfied with that. I won't be too greedy. So now I'll go out to the living room. For sure I'm gonna go through 3rd ending and 4th ending next week. We'll come back for the finale. So that being said, thank you everyone for stopping by the reading stream. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. and epic gotcha luck. I'll see you guys later. I'ma go feast now.
Bye-bye.
But oh my goodness, Mizuki would be me as a Seaborn. Being like, yummy food. Clearly my priorities are in order.